All right, so we got three of us today, and yes, this is the top story, absolutely. The Russians hacked the planet.
Yes, there are hackers everywhere, hacking everything.
Yeah.
This came out last night / yesterday, and then we're finding more and more things are compromised and in trouble today. So there are a lot of folks doing a lot of scrambling this morning, I imagine, trying to get the hatches battened down and figure out what happened and how to prevent it from getting worse.
Yeah, the interesting part is the technical details of how they did it. They poisoned the solar winds tools and apparently got away with it for 6 months before anybody noticed, which is, that shouldn't be possible. For all the times these people were reporting to command control servers and nobody noticed and stuff.
It really shouldn't be, but it also happens all the time. I feel like we have a disproportionately high number of stories like this where the attackers were in the systems for a long time, persisting without just managing to fly under the radar and do terrible things.
Well, on a system or two, but not like on most of the Fortune 500 and all the US federal agencies, not for 6 months. I mean, supposedly, we have like monitoring and detection systems and instant response systems that are supposed to detect this stuff.
But if those are the systems that are compromised, then they won't detect it.
Well, apparently, of course, we have no clue about all that. But yes, I thought we were better prepared than this. I mean, this is pretty horrible.
They're still trying to figure out exactly what happened. I mean, they have an idea, but they're realizing that the scope of it, the incident's a lot bigger than what's been reported. So they're still trying to figure out the actual extent of it, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
This is clearly a red letter emergency. I mean, here's the official DHS directive ordering everybody to submit a report by like 15 minutes ago, explaining what they're doing and taking forensic images of the machines that had this software and everything else. So they're taking this real seriously. Block all traffic to and from hosts. And there was a mysterious Google outage.
Yep.
I would assume might be related to them trying to do all this stuff, disconnect their infected servers, but maybe totally unrelated.
Yeah, and it could be. And I wondered if there was any relationship to the FireEye stuff that we found out about last week.
No, if they've already been in there for 6 months.
Well, the FireEye said a nation-state actor, which was attributed to Russia, stole some of our stuff.
Yes.
So that might have been by these means. And it might be
the same people.
Yeah.
Right, or the same people.
And that's how it starts, right? You find something suspicious, and then you start analyzing it, and then you find out, holy crap, they're here. They've been here for months. That's typically how you get there.
Yep.
So it may very well be that was like the tip of the iceberg. But we're only guessing, of course. There have been no official pronouncements. But I must say, I like the instant response of the federal government here. This is exactly what I tell my students. First, you try to decide how big is the problem. Then you try to put out the fire. So they're trying to, everybody, patch your stuff, block the servers, and send us a report of what you're doing so we can try to assess how much damage has been done and then figure out what to do. That is the right thing to do, right?
Yeah.
And it's like Star Trek. Guy goes, damage report.
One of these articles did say that some government officials mentioned that they're connected to the campaign that involved FireEye.
Yeah, it does seem to be the Russians, which, this is, I think, the thing. I think you couldn't stop the NSA no matter what you bought, and I don't think you can stop the Russians no matter what you buy.
Yeah.
Probably
That's impressive. I got to say, it's impressive. I mean, their cyber warfare units are pretty on top of things.
Yeah, well, but they did get caught. So, I mean, in a way, it's a victory that we did ever catch them and attribute it, I guess.
True.
Yeah, anyway.
Of course, they're denying everything, but
of course,
that's to be expected.
Yeah, but, I'm sure we'll be hearing about this apparently for months and years. The echoes of this are going to be going. They're saying this is one of those really big attacks that with many, many consequences.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's crazy because they said that this company, the SolarWinds, that got compromised, most of America's Fortune 500 companies, top 10 US telecom providers, which is big, all 5 branches of the military, State Department, the NSA, and the president.
Yeah, yeah. It's commercial stuff though, right? Because my first thought is, I got to get that infected one and play with it. That's awesome.
Yes.
I mean, that's like the most extreme Metasploit hacks where someone actually put a backdoor and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, that's the big news, of course, but we don't really know much, but it looks like pretty exciting stuff. And this one is pretty exciting too. Celebrate.
My first reaction is what?
Yeah.
Why?
Because the
How?
FBI paid $1 million for this about 5 years ago. So how did it get so cheap?
Yeah, how did it get so cheap that school districts have it, like LAUSD and a bunch of others?
And stingrays. How are they getting away with deploying stingrays on campus?
Right. How are these school districts getting those, and why can't we get some?
And why, I mean, this is sort of a rhetorical question, but why doesn't the FCC have a problem with this?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I guess if you had like a search warrant or something, but
they don't need that.
yeah,
These are
but
schools.
These are school districts.
You can buy Celebrite for $6,000. See, I met the CEO of Celebrite in Sri Lanka, and he was just announcing his tool. He said, we're trying to expand from just military and government down to like lesser, smaller businesses and stuff with a new lower cost offering. And I guess they did.
Guess they did, because
I mean, we have students with lunch debt in this country, yet we can buy military grade spyware tools to spy on children.
Well, it's only a few $1,000. And of course, I kind of understand it because kids are always making trouble. And then you say, let me see your cell phone. And I could only see what was on your cell phone. I know what rotten things you were doing. But, you know, then I remember the case where they prosecuted this like 12-year-old girl because she sent naked pictures of herself, and they prosecuted her as a child pornographer on that basis. It's like,
you know, this to me seems like another way to shorten the school to prison pipeline. I
mean, you know, yeah. Celebrites and stingrays.
I can't see any justification for this whatsoever.
No, I know. It just sounds like everything we hate about school, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's already invasive enough. I thought it was bad when they started making the kids have to wear IDs, school IDs around their necks. But this is beyond the pale.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm a high school dropout.
This is giving Wile E. Coyote some nukes.
I couldn't stand how oppressive it was in the 70s, so I'm not one to speak.
It's only gotten worse.
Can you imagine the typical public school IT department?
With a stingray. With a stingray.
Yeah, like I mean, especially on there's a lot of schools are getting targeted right now. And I mean, to me, I would think that $6,000 would be a lot better spent securing your own systems first.
Or feeding the kids.
You know, feeding, well, yeah.
Well, yeah, you know, this is kind of the thing we talk about a lot here. You'd be a whole lot better off actually teaching a good class instead of coming up with more and more exotic ways to like hit them with a hammer for stepping out of line.
Buying textbooks, maybe, since a lot of school districts don't even have textbooks. Like this is just nuts to me.
Yeah, you make a pretty good case. Yeah, and so I got a few for the coronavirus that are interesting. This one here proves something that we all kind of suspected. I remember around the time of this, we were talking about, should we go to a security conference like DEF CON or something? And apparently not. They found that this Biogen conference in February caused 330,000 infections.
Holy
oh.
You remember, because I thought we had it, because you and I went to B-Sides and we both got sick. And I said, I think that must have been the coronavirus. What else could it have been? Apparently not. But it certainly could have been the coronavirus. And anyway, that's the thing. Those huge conferences like DEF CON or something, thousands of people in a room, that's a terrible idea with a plague going around. But on the other hand, apparently the bus is not so bad. I assumed the bus is pretty much a death trap,
Yeah.
but they did compare cities with like a lot of buses and cities without much buses, and they have the same spread of the seasonal flu. And they said, well, things people don't know is that there's actually a lot of ventilation on the bus. They say that the air is replaced like 8 times an hour or something. So anyway, this doesn't exactly prove it, but it's pretty suggestive that the buses don't greatly spread respiratory diseases.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think the worst thing you can possibly do is go out to dinner. And the next worst thing you can possibly do is go to church. Those are probably the most dangerous things you can do. Because in church, you spend it for an hour and people are like chanting and singing and stuff, spreading all their saliva around.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a big push to get back on campus too. And that's just like going to church.
It is, yeah. Well, I don't think it's going to happen to us at City College, thank God. But
I hope not, because I think there's a possibility I could see it being better for like if you're running an elementary school or something, but for a campus like ours, I think is a terrible idea, especially with the, diversity of student age groups and stuff like that. I hope that it doesn't, we don't reopen campus for a while. And I hate to say that, but.
No, I don't even hate to say it. Obviously, we shouldn't. I'm sure we won't, because the virus is still exploding like crazy. It's going to be even worse in January than it is now. So anybody imagining, oh, it's okay to open the schools is not even going to be thinking that in January. Right. It's going to be twice the rate it is right now. And they locked down the whole state like last week because all the emergency rooms are already full. So by January, nobody's even going to be remotely suggesting that we open the colleges around here. That's my feeling.
Some schools have gone ahead and said it's going to be all of 2021.
Well, if we get the vaccine in like June, then maybe by the fall we'll be okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'd still rather wait out 2021.
Yeah. Well, if we had the vaccine and I had the vaccine, and I don't know, if most everybody has the vaccine, then maybe the fall's okay. But anyway, we'll see. That's possible. But I think spring semester is absolutely not possible, not even remotely.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing too, once they roll out the vaccine, I think it's going to take some time to gauge the widespread efficacy of it and stuff. Like, I don't think it's necessarily a great idea for everyone to get the vaccine and then just resume life as normal, expecting that everything's cool. It might be a good idea to take a cautious approach.
Probably it is, but I think we will know by then. This is one good thing about the slow rollout. By the time it gets to us, it'll be like April and May, and we'll already know from the early adopters how it all is working.
Yeah.
Anyway, one other thing I also think is already happening. A bunch of people said they wouldn't take it, but now they're changing their mind. This is what usually happens. The idea didn't sound good, but now they think, I could actually get a vaccine. And I wouldn't have to spend my whole life worrying about this. I think the number of people that get the vaccine is really going to be up like 70 or 80%, enough. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, I was just talking to my grader, and she said, you always say this. I just have this glandular condition that makes me think things are going to be okay. I never imagine we're going to have doom and disaster. I always figure it's going to be okay. So anyway. So KC got hit by ransomware, Kansas City or what?
A suburb, yeah. So Independence, Missouri.
Okay.
Yeah, they realized back in summer that we've got a problem here. We've got all these old unsecured systems, so we need to spend some money on making proper backups and restoring, and securing our systems and migrating over some obsolete legacy tech and stuff like that. And so they pushed and they pushed and they pushed, and they finally got their council to approve spending this huge chunk of money on securing stuff.
And what did they buy? Did they say?
They didn't say. I was looking because I was curious, and I also wondered if they'd My other question was, because you know how you guys know how slowly government moves,
Yeah.
whether they'd even gotten that budget and implemented stuff yet. Or are they still in the let's have 50 meetings about everything stage?
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Uh,
I've really wanted to know, what should you buy? You say you get a $2 answer, why didn't you do something? Well, they say, well, what should we do? And I said, I really don't have a recommendation like buy this and you'll be okay. But that is a very reasonable question. What should I do? Give me some reasonable, simple answer.
So it was pretty vague. They said that they showed that they had contracted with two companies to spend a chunk of money, but it just didn't say what they'd spend it on.
Yeah, I found some like official recommendations from I think Cisco
Yeah.
or something saying what to do. And it was, like 10 steps of general things like segment your network and so on. It wasn't really something where you can just buy something, install it according to the manufacturer's recommendation, and you'll be okay, which is what it pretty much has to be if you expect most people to do it.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem is that every setup's different. There's no standardized like county or city environment, like data processing and environment. So every situation is going to be different, and especially it'd be nice to assume that they're all going to be the same, but every jurisdiction has different stuff, so you can't I don't think you really can have an out of the box one size fits all solution in that case.
Why can't you? They are all the same. They all use Windows desktops in a domain, don't they? That's got
No,
to
they're
be.
not all the same because they also have a lot of other crap going on. Like, for example, Indiana still got that ancient mainframe that they're limping along, and they've still got like 4 guys that still know COBOL, and that's it.
But that's
And
not where the ransomware comes in. The ransomware comes in from the Windows desktops.
True, but they probably have different configurations. It's probably not all in a domain. At least, you cross your fingers and hope that they all do have a domain.
Well, sure, but I mean, I think if you would cover a standard Windows 10 desktop in a domain, you would get 90% of the companies. And I'm surprised there isn't something standard you can put on that will really work there.
Or maybe it's just all misconfigured, and what they really need is something like a group policy template to deploy.
It is surprising to me because it seems so easy to capture and prevent. If there's something that's changing a lot of files all over the place all at once, it should be blocked because that's not a normal thing for a normal user to do. So
right.
all you need to do is only allow each user to have like one write action every 10 seconds or something. Then you could carry on normal business and ransomware would not spread so fast. But obviously there's more to it. It just seems like it would be awfully easy. Anyway, I'd like to know more of why it's so difficult. And then Doe, all right.
Oblivious Doe.
Oblivious Doe, excuse me.
Or Odo, I guess. It's basically a proxy on top of Doe to further hide where you're going from your ISP.
Yeah, but I read this, and I heard about this, and what it apparently is saying, the problem with Doe is you have to trust your DNS provider, and they know everything. But with Odo, your DNS provider supposedly doesn't know what's going on. They forward it to someone else, and then they know who you are, but not what you're doing. And the other company knows what you're doing, but not who you are. But the problem is, how do you know they're actually doing that? I mean, if you don't trust them, you don't trust them. So that's why I do not understand how this really solves the issue. The issue is there are a bunch of people who hated Cloudflare. They've been screaming and yelling at it. Cloudflare is sweeping up all the data in the world. All the data goes through Cloudflare. They could be doing something rotten with it. And I say, I don't feel like they're doing anything rotten with it, but the fact is, of course, they are sweeping up all the data. So if you think that they're untrustworthy evil actors, how do you know that they're implementing Odo? How do you know they're not just proxying another one of their servers and they still know it all? How could you be sure of that?
Right. How do you track where the packet is going, where it's being recorded?
They may have an answer for that. It's just, it seems to me like this is a really esoteric security concern that only the most paranoid people would care about. I thought Doe accomplished all the real security that most people would need. But anyway.
Guess not, at least for some folks, because Apple's in on this, and
Yeah.
Some other company called Fastly is on it. They have a couple of people who are on this.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you, you might as well do the best job you can. Anyway, it'd be cool. Can you do it yet? Last I heard, there's no browser extensions or anything yet, right?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, they said there is some way to do it, but it's like complicated and difficult, and not worth doing until they like build it into the browsers.
Yeah.
But before long, they'll probably put it in Firefox Cutting Edge or something. So Amazon has this thing. I heard about Kara Swisher using this thing. This is their new health band. And so this thing checks your body fat. It checks your tone of voice to decide how happy you are and how critical you are. And then it gives you like personality recommendations. You're being too critical with people today. You need to go take a walk. You're not happy enough and stuff like that. Like what the hell? And
wow.
They say, this is, of course, your voice is overbearing or irritated. And they say, as I would expect, that this is horrible and not helpful at all and incredibly invasive and intrusive. I don't know who thought this was going to improve your life. This reminds me of, they sell you this shock that will zap you every time you reach. Like there's a Star Trek episode where they wear the colors of obedience and the master zaps them when they don't do what they're supposed to do. And you can buy this for yourself to like quit biting your fingernails or something, or it's programmed to zap you every time you do it.
Even better, you can, with that product, you can give your friends the opportunity to be in control of the button.
I know.
What could go wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
so your friends can shock you. This is fantastic, I'm sure, for pushing marketing suggestions into when you log on to Amazon.
Yeah, you need a can of Pepsi now. You need to buy another bottle.
Yes. How about this lovely shovel and bundles of rope?
What a great idea. The main thing, it tells that now Amazon will know everything about everything, how fat you are, what you eat, how miserable you are, what your heart rate is constantly, and every other thing, so they can like find some way to exploit that. Like,
oh, thank you.
I know, it's kind of incredible.
Yeah.
This made it to where they're actually manufacturing and putting it out before somebody said, what is this for? What is wrong with you anyway?
And people are buying it anyway.
Apparently so. I mean, I do kind of understand the idea of self-help, where you say, gee, I'd be a better person if only like I had an angel on my shoulder nagging me every 10 seconds to shape up. That's what I need. I don't know, man. Anyway. So, hey, what's the deal here? Okay. Oh, people attacking K12.
Yeah, this was another alert that came out last weekend, or last week rather, about these attacks stepping up.
Mm-hmm.
So be on the lookout.
Hey, maybe those stingrays will come in handy.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they should use them again. Maybe they should use some of those security tools to avoid getting hacked instead of against their own students. So,
well, if they spent all that money on security tools, apparently it wouldn't do any good. We just tried the other article about that.
True.
Right. But I mean, I thought that these were pretty telling numbers in that their ransomware attacks were up so much this year.
Yep.
They said in January through July, it was up 28%, and August and September, 57%.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised. I mean, schools are sort of poor and using old junk and not really maintaining it, and they don't really have any technical staff. I mean, they're pretty much sitting ducks.
All I can think is that the attackers hitting these schools must be from countries where they fund the schools, because talk about getting blood from a turnip. Like that probably, it's like the criminals who rob a gas station with like $50 for like $50. Like, it's not really knocking over that gas station. Just like, it's
Yeah.
probably not worth hitting these school districts too hard because they're already broke, because we do not prioritize education in this country.
Yeah, well, I doubt these are targeted attacks. They're probably just spray and pray, hitting random people.
Yeah.
Well, anyway. All right, and then we got Bay Area Cyber League. Oh, yeah. This is one with Laura Chappelle, right?
Yep. We had our second week with Laura. Well, Laura was our special guest this time because the contest last week was Wireshark and Open Source Intelligence. So Laura made the contest for Wireshark. We were super grateful for her to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then Open Source, one of my students made an entire fake identity and spread info everywhere, and so the kids had to go out and find it.
Good.
It was fun to watch some of the kids realize how creepy OSINT can be.
Yeah.
But also just how much info they can dig out.
I think this is great, and I really like the fact that the kids are all the presenters, so they're doing everything. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, that's definitely going to keep it at that, where the students are the ones presenting.
Absolutely. Then they're getting public speaking, and it's more fun. You get to see them.
Yep.
They're interesting in themselves, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, good. And so anyway, I thought these were good, clean fun. The Der Spiegel Trump covers. They've been like not shy about their opinion about Trump all along, with America First and lighting a match, and Kim Jong-un and Trump riding the nuclear Troy, and the devolution of man. And anyway, then, and I thought that somebody pointed out the new one they have is Biden putting the head back on with a mask. You know, this is pretty good stuff.
That's funny.
That's how we all feel, I think. And I was just hearing a podcast this morning. They're saying, I don't know what journalists are going to do now. Without Trump in there, nobody's going to buy the paper. Nobody's going to watch the news. What are we going to do? Which is true, of course, because he turned the government into a reality show. It'll be boring again. It'll be like, oh, Biden came on TV and who cares what he said? It was just the usual stuff. Usual stuff he would probably say, you know. We don't really need to spend all day screaming and yelling about it because, you know, he kind of said reasonable things. But anyway, it'll be a lot healthier. We'll have to like get back to hacking things or playing sports or something instead of spending all day just yelling about Trump.
True.
All right, any more comments?
Well,
all right, I'll stop this one.